Hey everybody, let's take 5 minutes out of our day and meditate on God's Word together. In the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus told us there are things we can do that are good, but we may do them for the wrong reason. We've seen two of those things. In Matthew 6, he first mentions giving as something we do for the wrong motivation, and prayer. But today we're going to talk about fasting. In Matthew 6, verse 16, Jesus says, "And when you fast, do not look gloomy like the hypocrites, for they disfigure their faces, that their fasting may be seen by others. Truly I say to you, they have received their reward. But when you fast, anoint your head and wash your face, that your fasting may not be seen by others, but by your Father who is in secret. And your Father who sees in secret will reward you." This is God's Word. Now, this is probably something we don't have a problem with. Quite honestly, fasting is something that has kind of been lost for the Western church, but it still applies to us definitely. For the Jews, fasting was something that they were required to do one day a year on the Day of Atonement. But fasting was something they could do voluntarily anytime. And we know from other sources like the Didache that some had their certain days they would fast, like on Tuesday or Thursday or Wednesday or Friday. And they would make it their tradition to fast. And this was something that was done as a sign of mourning, as a sign of dedication to God, as a sign of sadness. Often when they would mourn, what's different from the way we do it is when they would fast, they would wear sackcloth, put ashes on their head. And I think that may be what Jesus mentions here when he says they disfigure their faces. So when you would fast in those days, it was a visible thing you were doing. For us to fast, it's just you don't eat. You skip a meal or a couple meals or however long you choose to fast. But for them, it was much different. It was a very visual, communal thing they would do. For us, fasting is more individual, even though it can be a communal thing, definitely. Now, they were doing this for the wrong reason, though. Since it was a visible thing, it lent itself to being a prideful thing. There's a play on words here. Jesus says they disfigure their faces, that they may be seen by others. It's almost those two words, disfigure and seen, are like from the same word in Greek. It's like they're saying they disapparate so they can appear. They disapparate their face. That sounds like Harry Potter stuff. They disapparate their faces so they can appear to others. They disfigure so others will figure them to be something they're not. And you see the motivation is clearly wrong there. They're doing this just to be seen by others. But Jesus says, when you do this, wash your face, anoint your head. So don't put the ash on your head. It doesn't have to be this ceremonial thing you go through. It's an act of dedication to God. And just like giving and prayer, fasting is something to be done to God and for Him. Now this certainly applies to us. If we fast, now first of all, Jesus says when you fast. So it seems like He assumes if you're a disciple of the kingdom that at some point you fast. But when you do this, don't do it like that for the public display. Do it privately, just like you give and just like you pray. So for us, while we cannot visibly fast, you just skip meals, what we may be tempted to do is tell others about it and talk about how much we're fasting and almost in a prideful way. So we shouldn't do that. But something else that's not really fasting, but it may strike the heart of this, is self-pity. We may be prone or we may find ourselves bragging about how hard we have it in life. We talk about how much we've worked, how much we've given up, how much we've sacrificed. That is the same spirit of fasting. You may sacrifice, you may work hard, you may have hard things to do, but you shouldn't do that for the sake of appearance. You shouldn't endure those things just for the praise of people. Whatever you endure, whatever you do, however you mourn, however you fast, do that to God. And He who sees in secret will reward you. Now Jesus continues talking about the heart of matters in the Sermon on the Mount. He talks about not just what you want from others, but what you want from the world, from money. We'll talk about that next time we take 5. I'll see you then.